All over the world, thousands of acres of land are neglected and turned into brownfields. These once diverse ecosystems are then relentlessly infested with invasive species completely corrupted from its destined environmental function and left to fester. This tragedy even occurs in our own backyard, but there is still hope. With your help, time may be reversed. By visiting metroparks.net, you personally can help support places like the Scioto Audubon Metropark. The conservation goals included reducing invasive exotics, specifically reducing honeysuckle, ailanthus, garlic mustard, Callery pear, and even feral cats to 10% of what was present at the original site. Another goal was to increase the riparian corridor by establishing 300 feet minimum of forested cover. Additionally, the restoration would restore riverine floodplains by removing Fifth Avenue and Green Lawn dams. Finally, the last goal was to increase water quality by creating a wetland filtration unit with an average annual nitrate-nitrogen retention of 39 grams per square nm per year.
Yes, my name is Michael Goldman. I am the Conservation and Outreach Manager here at the beautiful Grange Insurance Audubon Center. The grand idea was to create a beautiful metro park in the heart of downtown. This whole area was the city impound lot. It was the city construction dump, as well as a number of other just industrial blight for the area. And we wanted, the city got together with the Metro Parks and the National Audubon Society to create this beautiful place that it is now today. Through grants, but most of it was through donations. For instance, Grange Insurance bought our naming rights for a few $1 million. So they own the name of the building for, I believe, 75 years. For the center itself, it's grants and donations. However, the Metro Park as a whole is tax funded, because they're through Columbus, Franklin County Metro Parks.
Was there a strong community support?
Yes, there was, and a lot of the support for the center came from the local volunteer chapter of Columbus Audubon.
Okay.
At the time that this place was being built, or even beforehand, there were a lot of people who were experiencing homelessness, who were living on this land, because it was nothing. It was got an industrial blight of the space, and I think figuring out what to do with all these people who are already living here must have been a challenge. By the time this building was being opened up, there were still cars out in the impound lot area. They didn't quite know exactly what kinds of pollution was getting into the soil. This place had gone through a number of transformations. It was a rail yard at one point. I believe it was a dye factory. There was the impound lot, there was a construction dump, there was a Lazarus warehouse, so no one really knew. I mean, soil testing was done, they found a lot of toxic things in the soil, and to make it into a park where people can enjoy, they definitely had to, there's a few places here where they had to put anywhere between 2 to 10 feet of fill of soil on top to make sure that the toxins aren't going to leach out. In fact, the wetlands out here, one of them has 3 layers of non-permeable plastic underneath it, specifically because it was on top of a toxic area. And we want to make sure, we want to be able to use that wetland for educational programs, but we can't have kids, playing in the water if they're going to get poisoned. Not only did we have invasive species, we still have invasive species. The one we're dealing with currently, or at least our biggest priority, the goldfish that are in the wetland that we use for educational programs. In wetland, someone very well-meaning thought, oh, let's release our goldfish, right? And they just, there's thousands of them now in a very small area. And the problem with the goldfish there is that they're eating up all the frog eggs, and they're eating up all the little tasty things that the turtles want to eat, and they're really just taking over this one wetland. The other invasive species that we are dealing with here are tree of heaven, honeysuckle, and common teasel. And Phragmites. And Yeah, we deal with all these things. We're trying our best to manage them. The Phragmites was sprayed and the seeds were cut off by Metro Parks. I go around and I cut the heads off the common teasel when it goes to seed. The honeysuckle we pull straight out of the ground. And what's going on with the wetland right now is we are, the Metro Parks are currently draining the pond. The idea being, those goldfish are the only things that really need that water. Everything else is a reptile or an amphibian or an insect that doesn't necessarily need water all the time. If we can drain it now and then it fills back up over the winter, we'll be able to kill off all the fish but keep all the things that we want. For the community, we've given the downtown Columbus a backyard to play in. A lot of people call this area an urban oasis or Columbus's best kept secret, and I disagree with all of that. This is Columbus's backyard. When you live downtown in those apartments, where are you going to go to walk your dog? You come here. When you want to go play catch, you come here. When you want to go rock climbing, you come here. When you want to go do anything outdoors, this is the best place for you to go if you're living in Columbus, in downtown Columbus. So socially, it's huge. This used to be a nasty, nasty place. Now there's kids playing here. There's adults walking their dogs. You can go rock climbing. You can go ride your bike. You can go running. You can go birding. And this has become an important bird area as designated by the National Audubon Society. You can see over 200 species of birds here throughout the year. We do a lot of bird monitoring. We are part of a number of different community science programs that monitor birds and populations. Right now we're working on Project Feeder Watch. Coming up is the Christmas bird count. Then it's going to be Climate Watch. There's Great Backyard Bird Count. So there's all kinds of different projects that we are monitoring bird populations and what kind of species that we get here throughout the year. Birds are messengers. Birds tell us what is going on ecologically. And things like the Christmas bird count, that's been going on since the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so having all this kind of data from so long ago, being able to compare it to what's going on in these populations today is so huge for monitoring what's happening to our climate, monitoring what's happening to habitats and things like that. And it also helps to predict what's going to happen in the future. For the site right now, it really is managing those invasive species. I think is our biggest issues. And just creating more access for people to get here. We want to create better experiences to inspire people to care more about the environment, get people more outdoors and more interested in birds, honestly. Because birds really are such an important and interesting species to watch. They tell us so much about what's going on ecologically, and it's one of the most common animals. It is the most common animal that you're going to see. Maybe it's a pigeon, maybe it's a sparrow, maybe it's a crow flying by. Whatever, you see that more than you'll see any other animal when you walk outdoors. You're hearing them and you see them fly by, and so it's such a tangible thing for the public to get excited about.
While the Metro Park team was clearing the site of all kinds of junk, they found this graffiti, and one of the site managers liked it so much that it is now hanging by the fireplace in Granger Insurance Audubon Center. While sitting in their library or standing on the lookout tower, you may see more than 200 different bird species, including the Acadian flycatcher, the Baltimore oriole, the belted kingfisher, the northern flicker, the pine warbler, the yellow-bellied sapsucker,